If you are testing in August, it's time to lock in. It's time to lock in, ReMar nurses. It's time to lock in. Man, you have to. Number one, study routine, non-negotiable, daily schedule. I'm talking for people who will be testing soon. There's so much to be done. I'm so glad that you guys are here. You are waiting for me to come on. That's amazing. The second thing is, it's time to face what you have been avoiding. Those subjects that you don't like to do, you're not interested in, we really need to address how you're going to handle this. And the third thing is begin to simulate the exam. Welcome to Monday Motivation. This is Monday Motivation, everybody. I'm trying to motivate you. My name is Professor Regina. I'm so happy that you are here, taking time out of your schedule from all over. Let me know. This is the live class. We have people from Kenya today in the study session. Look around. Just look around at the number as it continues to climb. Uganda's in the house. Jersey is in the house. Shout out Jersey City. Look around to those who are on the journey with you, but who will be departing from this group very soon, because they will pass NCLEX. They will pass NCLEX. And so what I'm trying to do on Mondays and Wednesdays, when we have this opportunity to come together, are address the critical areas that will prevent you from becoming successful. And yes, we are going to absolutely talk about Asperger syndrome today. This is coming from Quick Facts. Every nurse should have Quick Facts for NCLEX, also Quick Facts for nursing school. I am really excited. I'm going to keep you updated because I sent a couple of these books off to The Ohio State University, and I am just looking forward to getting a response back on these books. We also, I don't know if y'all saw my TikTok, but we also have our first big brand deal with Walmart. So you know that these books are already on Amazon, but Walmart picked up these books nationally. So you can get them on walmart.com. This is huge for ReMar, you guys. And so I will be just sharing all of the great things that are happening with the company and how the support has been growing for our educational material. So I'm so excited about that. Also, thank you, Sophia, for passing NCLEX, but still being here. Also, for those of you who have these books, you have them or you're going to order them, even Quick Facts for Tees, I will be doing a back to school event in August where I will be going over each one of these books with you. So Quick Facts for Tees, we're reading it together. Quick Facts for NCLEX, been doing it. We've been doing it. And Quick Facts for nursing school, for those of you who will be starting nursing school or going back to nursing school, we're going to dive into it. So the details for back to school review will be coming up. I am so happy to be guiding you on the reading of this book, Asperger syndrome. But I'm really serious. I'm really serious because if we're going to pass NCLEX, there are certain things that we have to address. The content is one of them. The next one that I want to bring up, and this applies to each and every one of you, it is that cell phone addiction. Work on it right now. Work on it right now. The reason why I say this is because very few of us do without our cell phones. They're always with us, right? Quick facts for nursing school if you're just going to be starting nursing school. Getting back to these cell phones, we have them all the time where they are like assistive devices for us, okay? When you go to take NCLEX, you cannot take this phone with you. For some people, that's going to be a problem because you know what? You're used to checking it every 5 seconds. You're used to having it in your hand with you all the time. This has become a support animal for you. All right. And when you're taking NCLEX, if you have developed the compulsion to check your phone, guess what? 5 hours, baby, without it. And so you're going to be really, really uncomfortable trying to get through NCLEX if your mind is cell phone. I need my dopamine from my cell phone. I need my comfort aid. All right. So we better get rid of these cell phones. I'm trying to tell you stuff nobody ever says to you, but on test day, it will be a problem. I've been doing this a long time. It will be a problem if you only have a 5-minute attention span before you need to check for. Okay. All right. So we're going to be working on that too. But for today, we are in Quick Facts. We are in Quick Facts again. Also, for those of you who will be studying, joining the program, don't forget it's pass or get your money back. Okay. It's pass or get your money back for the V2 platform. And that includes all of the videos that you see behind me. That also that includes your training for the full course. Okay. So I am stepping out on faith because I believe that if you do the work, you will get the results that you are looking for. So how many people love pass or get your money back? It's a guarantee to pass NCLEX. All right. So let's get that in our minds. Let's get that in our minds. If you need to get this book, I see people asking me this book or this book, you can get it at remarnurse.com. Okay. For the books. You can get it on Amazon.com or you can get it on Walmart.com. So any of those platforms for you to get this book. If you're talking about getting the full review course, you get that on my website, remarnurse.com, and you're able to get the complete package. Okay. Able to get the complete package. Yes, I'm telling you, you didn't show up here by accident. Right? We want all the keys to the car that we are going to be driving, which is our nursing license. So disassociate myself from the mobile device for at least 5 hours. Okay. It's going to be tough, but we're going to start early. So open up your book, your Quick Facts book, and let's go to Asperger syndrome. Okay. We are going to be reading page number, and there's a certain point, Asperger syndrome right here. Page number, it is indeed page number 9. There's certain points about this particular topic that I wanted to draw your attention to because it's not a big one at all. But when we're reading very casually and sometimes when we're not intentional, we can miss things. So let's start it off with Asperger syndrome. This is considered a neurodevelopment disorder. So we are talking about what organ here? Okay. We are talking about what organ? Bangladesh, we ship this book globally. So you're able to get it. Okay. So, and you should have a pen and you should be taking notes. Okay. This is very important. So when we talk about this particular problem, we are definitely focusing on the brain. Very good. We're definitely focusing on the brain. This is a neurodevelopment disorder. Now, people with this specific syndrome, do they tend to be high functioning or low functioning? Do they tend to be high functioning or low functioning? Because we're coming at this from the nursing perspective. All right. So what do we do as nurses? We're going to be doing a lot of education. But we also have to know the medical conditions that are associated with this. Okay, I'm glad I asked this question because I see a lot of high and lows. Okay, so it can't be both. There's only one answer, and this is going to be high functioning patients because this is number 3. All right. Asperger syndrome, high functioning. The first sentence that I say here, this syndrome is a form of autism. Okay. This is a form of autism. And so specifically, we know autism comes on a spectrum. You can go from low functioning autism to high functioning autism. These individuals are considered high functioning. Now, why is that? Okay. They have usually an above average intelligence. if you've ever met someone who has autism but is very high functioning, these patients are extremely intelligent. They have an amazing way that they think about things. They can be highly creative. All right. So let's just go through it. All right. So the first sentence says this syndrome is a form of autism, which is a spectrum disorder. Now, the next thing is when we talk about what is autism, this is a developmental disorder that impairs the ability to what? Communicate and interact. Okay? Communicate and interact. So, what, well, how should I ask this question? What does autism do for this patient? Like, what does it create? What problem does it create? When we talk about the ability to communicate and interact, here we are saying the patient, they are able to think clearly, right? But they miss, I like that. This is the word I was looking for. They miss this. It it inhibits their ability to build social communication. And what makes it so frustrating for our patients is that they are not able to interpret, okay? Because the communication is both ways. They may be able to say something clearly, but they're not always able to interpret the other person's response, the other person's facial cues, the other person's body language. And so sometimes people with autism have a very difficult time making friends, have a very difficult time being accepted into peer groups, right? Because they don't know how to, and I tell my kids all this all the time. They don't know how to read the room. They don't know how to read the room. And so this makes it difficult for them to build relationships. But also, what do you think that does to the patient? How do you think patients with autism, how do you think they respond when they don't have that ability to communicate? How does it make them feel emotionally? Okay? Because this is what we will be dealing with. Okay? This is what we will be dealing with in terms of these patients. Yes, exactly. Exactly. They become frustrated. They sometimes shut down, right? It's not that they can't communicate, it's that they never get a positive response from talking. They never get positive feedback. So they will not do it. And then another thing is they have meltdowns, right? They have meltdowns, they become aggressive. And so those who are not trained, right? And this is why it's so important who you have working with your children. Those who are not trained, they label it as that's a bad kid right there. That's a difficult kid. They don't belong in school, right? We need to medicate them because they are aggressive, they are out of control, right? But what actually is happening is what would happen to many people if they weren't being if their needs weren't being met, if they had sensory overload, right? Have you ever been in a situation where you just have sensory overload and everything is just like, I can't do this anymore, right? And so imagine a child that maybe doesn't have the life experience or verbal skills to express themselves, how they would behave, right? And so we as nurses, and this is what nurses often miss, even nurses or teachers, they often miss that the meltdowns that these children are having, they're a response to not being able to communicate, sensory overload, difficulty with change, right? Difficulty feeling heard and building relationships. And so children with autism can totally miss cues that are very, very apparent. All right. And so that's what NCLEX wants you to be able to understand. Can you see past the physical presentation of being angry, aggressive, whatever? And this is the point of quick facts. We want to get straight to the point. So let's go to the next point. What is the treatment for autism? What is the treatment for autism? And I love this because you guys, one of the things that I love for you to show up is because you helped me teach this class. And so change is a huge deal for little ones with autism. It's difficult for them to change. Okay, so what is the treatment for autism? We have communication, of course, right? But we have speech therapy, physical therapy, and occupational therapy. Okay. Speech therapy, physical therapy, and occupational therapy. It is important for you to know the differences between these three. They are not the same thing, and they have very specific goals. So we're going to play a game. Is it PT, OT? Okay. I know you guys know speech therapy, so I'm not doing speech therapy, but I want you to know the difference between PT and OT, physical therapy or occupational therapy. So I'm going to say a skill, and I want you to tell me, is it PT or OT that's going to help our patient with autism do the skill? All right. So let's do holding a pencil. Is that physical therapy or occupational therapy? Okay, this is going to be good. Holding a pencil, physical therapy, occupational therapy. We're not doing speech therapy. Physical therapy or occupational therapy? Which one? Oh, I see some OTs. I see some PTs. I see some OPs. Can't be OPs. Has to be OT or PT. Okay, holding a pencil, occupational therapy. Occupational therapy. Yes. What about putting on shoes? Occupational therapy, physical therapy, putting on shoes. CPT, putting on shoes, occupational therapy, occupational therapy. Okay. What about buttoning a shirt? Buttoning a shirt. Physical therapy, occupational therapy. Putting on a shirt, buttoning up a shirt. Oh, my English. Here we go. Again, occupational therapy. What about climbing the stairs? Going up the stairs. Physical therapy, occupational therapy. Climbing the stairs. Good job. That's physical therapy. Sometimes patients with autism, we know that they have sensory overload. So sometimes they don't like things touching them. For example, a patient with autism, they may not like to wear socks because they don't like the feel of socks on their feet, or they might not like to wear cotton shirts. I'm so glad this made my day. They might not like to wear cotton shirts. You guys get me? So if you have a patient with that type of issue, they don't want something against their skin. I think Yvette is maybe our resident, right? Our resident expert. I don't know, because you've been giving some really great information in the chat. What type of therapy helps with that? Okay. Physical therapy, occupational therapy. I'm gonna get you ready for NCLEX. I'm gonna get you ready for NCLEX. I'm gonna get you ready for life. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. All right. So what do we expect? Physical therapy or occupational therapy for that? Nice. Nice. You guys are doing good today. Correct answer, occupational therapy. Occupational therapy for that. Yeah. So physical therapy helps with the big movements, the running, the climbing stairs, the walking backwards, the squatting down, right? And occupational therapy helps with the fine motor skills, helps with the um using, like, right, using your digits, your fingers. Also, they can help you with things to help you get through life. So yes, wearing clothes, right, getting used to different senses. We were talking about how patients with autism, they may not like to have cotton shirts, or wear jeans clothing. Yes, things like that. Okay, so that's what occupational therapy does. So know the difference between those two moving forward. Okay, I'm moving on to the next point. It says underneath speech therapy, physical therapy, and occupational therapy, currently there is no medication that can cure the condition. There is no medication that can cure this condition. Why is that? I know somebody said, somebody asked this question, what is the cause of this? Why is there no medication for this condition? Why is there no medication to cure this condition? What do we say? What do you say about that? Because this is not considered a what? This is not a disease. This is not a disease. It's a difference. It's a brain difference. It's a different way of thinking. It's a different way of interpreting data. Now, this is not something that is a disease. Okay. I want to make it very, very plain. However, because of this condition, certain diseases or conditions can develop, which is something that we as nurses should know. So if a patient has, oh, this is good. If a patient, this is not in my notes, if a patient has a difficult time interpreting cues, they have a difficult time interpreting sensory issues. What type of medical conditions can they have because of that? Think specifically to children. Think specifically to, they can't interpret cues other people give them, and sometimes they can't even interpret cues that maybe their own body is giving them. How do we protect medically our patients with autism? Think about some of the conditions they might have or run into because they have autism. Okay. What do you think? There are some. Okay. So I see neurological issues, psychosis. I don't know about psychosis. Psychosis, to me, when I hear psychosis, I think of a break from reality, right? Like a total break from reality. And that means hallucinations, that means neologisms, that means, voices. And I don't know if they have that much. Maybe, maybe Yvette can tell us. So to me, though, depression, definitely. Okay. Depression. So depression is a withdrawal, right? It's a negative response because of it. Speech impairment, I would agree with that, because if you're not using those muscles to speak, then they won't develop, right? Also, how about this? How about just really medical conditions like dehydration, right? Children with autism, when they're going and they're thinking, are they thinking of, my body's telling me that I'm thirsty, or it's hot outside and I'm out here, I should probably drink some water? Like, those cues can get missed. Definitely prone to accidents. Absolutely. All type of accidents, right? So medically, think of dehydration. Okay. Malnutrition. right? Sometimes time and place might be missing those cues. Hey, it's time for bed. Why is it time for bed? They might miss that the sun is going down. It's the end of the day. It's after school. Yeah. So those are the kind of medical conditions that NCLEX would be looking for. Anxiety as well. Anxiety. And Caden said it as soon as I said it. Caden typed it as soon as I said it. Anxiety. Huge, huge anxiety. Definitely an overwhelming response. Poor hygiene, right? Poor hygiene can lead to, infections, things like that. Okay. Yeah. So think about things like that in terms of the medical conditions that may be associated with this. Now, NCLEX wants us to know the nuances of that. All right. So what does the treatment improve? The treatment is focused to improve the daily life, so communication and the client's social skills. We really want our patients to be able to express themselves and also try to be able to understand what others are communicating with them. Okay. We're on page 9. Question for clinical priorities. Let's go over the clinical priorities and then we can wrap this class up. So clinical priorities, the first step is diagnosis, is early detection. So what is early detection? When can you determine if a child will have autistic tendencies or they may be on the spectrum? What are we looking for? What are we looking for? And I know like we may have our own experience, but just research based, when does that typically happen? At what age? Well, at what age? Because I want you to write this in. Ages 2 to 3. 2 to 3 years old. 2 to 3 years old. And remember at this age, children are beginning to interact with others their age. They are beginning to smile, they are beginning to interpret cues. They may have stranger anxiety. So 2 to 3 years old. Yep. 2 to 3 years old. The nurse should use clear statements that begin with the client's name to improve information processing. This is just how we should speak to them. And then look at this. Dimming the lights, using a weighted blanket or vest. What is it with the weighted blanket? Why would something that puts weight on a patient with autism be helpful? Why is that? What's up with a weighted blanket? Have you ever experienced one before? If you don't know what one is, please go look it up. And this is very important. I had an experience with one. They were very popular for a little while for adults. Just people were just buying one. And for somehow, I think I either bought one or somebody gave me one. And I put that thing on me. I slept under a weighted blanket. And it was the most uncomfortable experience for me ever. I one night couldn't do it anymore. Hated it. Absolutely hated it. Right. But what does it do for a patient with autism? What does it do? All right. It does. It puts pressure on them. It gives you a constant pressure, kind of like a hug. Right. And so what that does is it grounds the person. It calms them down. Right. They know where they are. So it helps give them even spatial awareness, like this is where you are. This is where you are. So that's very helpful. It's very helpful. All right. And allowing them to do repetitive movements, allowing them to have routines, it should be encouraged. Okay. All right. And so these are all teaching aspects that you must know. And of course, there's so many reasons of people saying why autism occurs. Is it because of this? Is it because of that? For NCLEX, we don't go into that. We don't have to go into that. Our job is to help improve that patient's and that family's quality of life and give them things that are practical, that will be helpful, so that their child, their loved one, can maintain a normal environment. Because the last thing that we want to do is be labeling children good or bad and making them feel like they don't belong because they have not a brain disease, but a brain difference. And so this is what we do here. We are breaking down these subjects so that when we take NCLEX, we have a greater sense of not only comprehension, but confidence. But going back to my point, this is the main enemy right now. We got to detach from these cell phones, even when we are in class. Okay. Even when we're in class. Now, this is Monday. So on Mondays, our classes are a little different than on Wednesdays, because on Mondays, we do the study session, plus we do our motivation. So allow me 5 minutes to go over our motivation. And I think our motivation is so important for the week because it really sets us on a right thinking path. And it really allows us to, even though during this process, it may be difficult, it may be long, we may have experienced failures already, it helps to keep us grateful for the season that we are in. Okay. And we must be able to be grateful and keep a positive perspective while we are on this journey. So, Monday motivation, everyone, is when life gets hard, choose peace. Choose peace. Choose peace. All right. And our reflections always start with questions. Okay. Always start with questions. So for this week, um, how do you react to these situations? Okay. Waking up late, rushing to get ready for work or school. How are you responding? How do you respond when you misplace important items like your keys or your phone or your wallet? Maybe dealing with difficult people. Just tell the truth, keep it real. How are you responding? Trying to balance work, study, personal responsibilities all in one day. Or finding out that you failed NCLEX again. All of these challenges may come up during the month of July. Even as we move into August, you're going to experience these things in daily life. Okay. So the motivation, the reminder is just 1 Peter 3:10-12 for this week. And it says this very plainly: if you want to enjoy life and see many happy days, keep your tongue from speaking evil and your lips from telling lies. Turn away from evil and do good. Search for peace and work to maintain it. The eyes of the Lord watch over those who do right, and his ears are open to their prayers. But the face of the Lord is against those who do evil. There's a lot here, so much here in this verse that I want us to just think about for 1 second. And the first thing is this, when we are called to live for God and we want to have a good life and we want to have a happy life, we have to look at it not from man's perspective, but what does God consider a good life? Because from our perspective, a good life is accomplishing our goals, passing NCLEX, you know, having our family and our kids happy, being wealthy, being able to go on vacations, right? That's like the standard of a good life. But that's not what God considers a good life. Mostly what God is calling us to is obedience and dependency on him. And so what does the Bible say? If we are followers of God, we will keep our tongues from speaking evil. We will keep our tongues from telling lies. These are just practical things. We will turn away from evil and do good. Why is that? Because there's a promise here. The Lord, he watches over those who do right. Sometimes people think, oh, God is everywhere. God is with everybody. No, God is not with everybody. God is not with everybody. The enemy, the devil has his people who he blesses. And when the devil blesses people, it's a big scene, right? And so people look and then they do ask the question, why are those people, able to prosper doing wicked, right? Why are those people able to prosper? They seem so happy. Those people who don't read the Bible, who don't care about God, they seem to be living the best types of life. But what do we know? We know that those people, yes, they have their day, because the devil says, if you bow down to me and worship me, I'll give you the kingdom. I'll give you worship and adoration, right? But we know that the end of them is destruction, right? And so those who are trying to do it God's way, man, sometimes it's a hard journey and it's a hard road, and it's not easy to worship God when things are so difficult. This brings me to a conversation I had with my cousin, and I shared this earlier. I have a cousin that's not a believer, and he used to be a believer, but he's not a believer. And maybe you guys can help me out with this. But I've been asking the Lord to help me, because he says, I'll believe God if he just comes down and shows me that he's real. If God is so real, why doesn't he just tell everybody? Why do we have to hear stories about a man living inside of a well for 3 days? We're supposed to believe that. That doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even make sense. That's what my cousin said to me. And at the time, all I could say was, there has to be an element of faith in your belief. There has to be. In everything you believe, you have to have faith. But it bothered me so much that I couldn't address, God, why don't you just come down and show these people that you're real? And then they would believe, right? So I sat with that for months. And then this weekend, my kids had to tell the story of Jonah and the whale. And when they told the story of Jonah and the whale, my kids totally believe it. It's no question that Jonah was inside of the whale 3 days and 3 nights. But it burnt me, because I'm like, man, my cousin, that is what he said. He said, this doesn't make sense to him. Why? Just show him, God, right? And so this morning, when I was doing my devotional, God actually brought me back to remember. He brought me back to remember when he walked on water, right? It was another story I told to my kids. I'm learning through my kids. God teaches me through my children. And you may know this story. I don't know if you know this story, but Jesus was walking on the water and his disciples saw him. And at first they thought he was a ghost, but then Peter called out to him and he brought Peter on the water or whatever. So they all saw that Jesus walked on the water. And that is when the Bible says they worshiped God. They believed God. And this is after they saw him feed the 5,000. This is after they saw him turn water into wine. And so I said, God, why did they see all of those things, but they didn't worship you until you walked on the water? Right? And then God revealed to me this morning that miracles don't convert people. Miracles do not convert unbelievers. Think about the story of Moses and Pharaoh. The Pharaoh saw all of those plagues, all of those miracles, and it actually made his heart harder against God. And so the reason why the disciples were able to see Jesus do all of those miracles, yes, even changing water into wine, they did not truly understand God until he stepped in and saved their own lives, because they were in that storm and they tried, they were afraid, right? And it wasn't until Peter was sinking down in the water and the Lord saved him did he realize, oh, this is my creator. And so for God, even if he showed us miracles every day, even if he showed up and was like, boom, I'm here. If you don't have a heart to receive God and you aren't humble enough to understand that there is a power that has created you and everything around you, you will not believe. And so today, this morning, I finally had my answer to my cousin's question. Why doesn't he just show us? Why doesn't he just do miracles? Right? And it is because miracles don't convert. Only thing that converts, and it begins with faith, is knowing that I did not get here by myself, right? And having a personal experience with God. That's what draws you near. So this week, my hope is that we all have the humility to just look back on our lives and see that we have been given grace. We have been helped through some difficult times. Some of us should not even be here, truth be told. Some of us should be dead in our graves. But for God's testimony of his goodness, you are here today. And it doesn't take Jonah in the whale, and it doesn't take changing water to wine or any miraculous miracle. You yourself are the miracle. You yourself are the miracle. And so that is our devotional for today. Okay. So let us, as we go through, yes, I like that. Two of my favorite names. Without faith, it is impossible to please God. So, shall we have a faith? Shall we be the testimonies that we are called to be? Why are you here? You are here to testify to God's goodness and his saving grace. That's it. That's your purpose, right? The angels in heaven cry, holy, holy, holy. That's what they do. Okay. It's not much different down here. Not much different. Like this. Hey, thank you so much for coming to this class. We will all pass the NCLEX by having faith through God, no matter what. If you are a first time or a test repeater, keep your faith high. You will get through the storm. Keep your eyes on Jesus. You will get through the storm. Amen. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to class. I hope to see you on Wednesday. We will be back. 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to do more studying. Okay. If you love today's class, get my full training inside of the V2. You can drop it up at remarnurse.com. And I wanted to put my email address for some of you who had specific questions on how do I get this? How do I get that? Where is my book? I know I see the questions like that as well, especially for my international students. Sometimes when we send quick facts off into another country, when we put it in the hands of the post office, Lord knows what they are doing with our books. But we definitely want you to know that your book is yours. When you order it, we want to give it to you. So you can also email me. Where's that email address? support@remarreview.com is my email. Please send me a message. We do have ReMar associates on the line right now that are willing to assist you, speak to you, help guide you as well. What else do we have? Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Hey, I love that. Faith is the substance of things hoped for. Also, if you want a discount code, you can use RN0802 for your discount to the full course. Got a ReMar representative on today. Thank you so much for being here as well. All right, everyone. I will see you Wednesday. God bless you. And as always, you know, I believe you can, you will, and you must pass NCLEX. Yes. See you later. Bye-bye.